This video is gonna be all about recording the cleanest motorcycle sound possible, even at higher speeds. Yes, I'm talking about the triple digit speeds. We're gonna go through a lot of different setups, and I'll tell you guys all the different microphones that you can use, from the cheapest one to the easiest one to use. And I'll also tell you guys how you can place it on your body and on the motorcycle in order to get the best results. So at the end of the video, I'll give you guys my personal opinion, and I'll tell you guys which setup do I use under what circumstances. And yes, there are two setups that I use the most. So I've been trying and testing all sorts of different microphones and all sorts of different microphone placement on the motorcycle and on the body, and here's how they sound like. So you just heard three different sound sources or three different microphones placed on different locations on the motorcycle and on the rider's body, and that's why they sounded different. The first source was this GoPro Max 360 camera, which was mounted on the motorcycle on the rear rack facing this way. So the motorcycle was going that way and the camera was facing that way too. But here's the trick. This camera has 3 to 4 microphones, one at the front, one at the rear, and one on the side. And there are 3 more that you can't see on the outside of the body, but they are internally in this camera. And the good thing about this camera is you can select your desired microphone that you want to use for your video. In this case, my camera was facing this way, and that's why I used the rear mic in order to deflect all that wind. If I was using this front microphone, all that wind would hit the microphone straight on the face of it, and that would cause a lot of bad, distorted kind of sound. And that's why using this rear mic gave us much cleaner, much better sound. But at high speeds, this camera failed too. At high speeds, you could hear that really low and heavy wind noise, which we do not need when we are creating content related to motorcycles. So the next microphone that I was using was of my iPhone XR or 10R. I don't know what you call it, but you know what I'm talking about. Here's the phone right here. And this phone was placed in the front pocket of my pants. And that's why you could hear that rubbing noise when the duffel bag was hitting my thighs. And that's one of the reasons why I would not suggest using the iPhone. The other reason why I would not suggest using the iPhone as your primary motovlogging audio recorder is because you may need to use your phone for, let's say, Google Maps, or for, it's a phone. It's not a recorder device, which means that you would be draining the battery really quickly, and you can't use it for extended periods of time, because I have noticed that sometimes the Memo app, it stopped recording by itself. The other downside of using the iPhone as your primary microphone for the motovlog is you heard the sound of the microphone. You heard that the sound coming out of this iPhone was really thin. Felt like there is no bass in the sound. Like all those frequencies, maybe I think below 100 Hz, like the real meat, that was missing. And that's why it sounded much cleaner too, because there were no information available in that frequency range. So the third sound source that I had was this H1N handy recorder. It's not a part of the camera. I just attached it because we're gonna go shoot something later in the evening today. But this is an external sound recorder that I purchased specially for motovlogs, because when I started doing motovlogs, I was using just this camera. And this GoPro Max 360, the downside of this is it doesn't have any slot to connect an external microphone to it. And that's why I had to purchase something that would allow me to record myself talking while riding the motorcycle, or record the sound of the motorcycle. And that's when I purchased this H1N handy recorder. And before I give you the feedback on H1N handy recorder, I would say that in this video, I was not using the dead cat. So dead cat is that fluffy thing that goes on top of your microphone to reduce the wind noise. I hope you're getting what I'm talking about. I don't have it right here with me, otherwise I would show it to you. I was not using that dead cat on this sound recorder because I had to put it in my pocket and it really has a huge dead cat. It would, it would be a little uncomfortable for me to sit on the motorcycle with that thing inside my pocket. And anyways, it was going in my pocket, so my pant, they were kind of acting like a dead cat too. Kinda, not really. The third sound that you heard was coming out of this guy, and yes, it was super windy. And what I don't like about this sound recorder is that it's a stereo sound recorder unless you connect an external microphone to it. So if you're using just this unit standalone by itself, it's gonna record a stereo sound. It has two microphones facing like this, so one recording whatever's coming from that direction, other recording whatever's coming from that direction. And that's why most of the time when I'm using just this recorder, I have this imbalance in the stereo field. My left ear would be picking up more sound and my right ear would be less because of the placement of the microphones. And that's why sometimes one of the microphone would pick up the sound of the exhaust, and then the other microphone would pick up all the sound of the wind noise. And then it's a lengthy process to just get rid of it, to separate the stereo channels into the mono, and still it's not sounding as good as we expect it to. So these were the three sound sources placed at different locations, and we have ruled out the GoPro Max 360, we have ruled out the iPhone, we have ruled out the H1N. But just to give you guys some example how different placement changes the sound of the motorcycle, let me quickly show you what I did next. So what I did next was I pulled the iPhone out of my front pocket and I put it in the rear pocket, and I pulled the H1 out of the rear pocket and I put it in my front pocket. So I flipped their positions, and this is what they sound like at different locations now. Okay, so before moving forward, let me tell you guys that all the three options that I just showed you, I do not use none of them. Cause yeah, they might be cheap, they might be easier to use. All you gotta do is put them in your pocket and it's recording the sound. At the end of the day, if the sound is not fucking shit, man, let me turn my phone. Okay, so yeah, what I was saying, at the end of the day, if the results are not good, you're not gonna use that sound anyways. So it doesn't matter if your sound recorder was cheap or expensive. It doesn't matter where it was placed. If the results are not good, you are not able to use them, then what's the point of placing that cheap microphone in that really good location, or placing that expensive microphone in that really bad location, if you know what I mean. All these three options that I just showed you, I do not use them for the sound of the motovlogs. So the next setup that I'm going to show you, it's a different one, and yes, it's a lengthy one. It requires a little bit of efforts to place the microphone in those areas, but man, the results that you're gonna get, you'll be surprised. So for this next setup, what I'm doing is I'm unlocking my rear seat and I'm taking out my toolkit and I'm replacing my toolkit with a microphone. So I place my microphone underneath the seat, I lock the seat up, and this is what the motorcycle sounds like with the microphone connected to the bike underneath the seat. Alright, so as you saw, this was super clean even at higher speeds, man. This is what I use when I have to really give good quality sound to something important or some important video that I'm shooting. So whenever I have to make a cinematic video or whenever I have to, make some reels, that I am gonna use the sound of my motorcycle, I do take this extra step. Yes, it's a little bit of efforts to place the microphone underneath the seat, but the results, man, they speak for themselves. And that's why I use this setup whenever I have to take the good quality sound for cinematic video. The downside of placing the microphone underneath the seat is the microphone is connected to the motorcycle, whereas the other end of the cable is connected to you, the rider or the camera. And that's why at times when you have to get off the motorcycle, you have to be really mindful that you are connected to the motorcycle via a cable. Otherwise, you may end up damaging your microphone or your camera. And that's really one of the downside that I felt like about it. Other than that, it's fine. It's a nice setup, but I don't use it every day because it's a lengthy process. I only use it when I have to take the real good quality sound. Now let me show you what I use on everyday basis whenever I'm doing motovlogs. And when I say on everyday basis, what I'm talking about is when I am speaking inside the helmet, and at the same time I'm recording the sound of the motorcycle using an external microphone. And this is how I do it. So as you can see, the microphone is connected to my jacket behind me, and the other end of the cable is connected to the camera. So the good thing about this setup is that all the microphone and all the cameras, they are connected to the rider. We are not connected to the motorcycle anyway, so we have the freedom of movement without damaging our expensive gear. And other good thing about this setup is it's a tidy, quick tap and go kind of setup. You do not have to, unlock the rear seat or place the microphone there and then connect the microphone to you. All you have to do is connect the microphone to your jacket and connect the other end to your camera, and you're good to go. The one downside of this setup is if you're recording just the motorcycle sound and no vocals, no voiceovers, it's gonna sound a little bad at higher speeds. So this setup is only gonna work well if you are talking while you're recording the motorcycle sound as well. What you can do in the post is you can take off those low windy frequencies and you can mask them with the frequencies of the voice over microphone inside your helmet, and it's gonna give you a really nice blend. Both of these microphones, the sound of the motorcycle and your vocals on top of it, it sounds really fantastic. And if you are not going above, let's say 80 kilometers an hour or 100 kilometers an hour, you still get some good results using this setup. It's not gonna sound bad. The only issue occurs when you're going above 100 kilometers an hour. That's when it sounds really windy. So there it was. In my opinion, what I use every day is this setup for my motovlogs whenever I'm doing the talking in the helmet. If I'm not doing the talking in the helmet and if I really need some good quality motorcycle sound, I use the under the seat setup where you have to place your microphone underneath the seat. But most of the time, this is the setup that I use, where you have your microphone connected to the jacket and you're riding slowly, smoothly, you're talking, you're doing your thing, and yeah man, so that's the setup that I use. And just in case if you're not satisfied with these options that I provided, you can also try this unique one. I have the microphone mounted near to the exhaust system on the rear foot peg of the pillion rider, and the other end of the microphone is connected to the camera. But the reason why I do not use it mostly is because it requires a lot of post-processing. There is a lot of noise, mechanical noise and the wind noise that the microphone picks up, and in the post-production you would have to clean all that up, and then you would get this meaty, beefy sound. Well, here's how it sounds like. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please do write them down below. If you want me to make in-depth video of how I process my audio in the post, how I edit my videos, let me know in the comments down below. If we get a lot of comments, I am gonna make a video about that too. Please do consider subscribing to the channel. If I haven't said it, I'm saying it again. You can support me by clicking on the link in the description. You can, buy me a dash of fuel if you like the videos that I make. Alrighty, that's it for today. You have a wonderful day ahead. Peace.